and WNST. What are you doing? Are you doing social media stuff? What are you reading up on things?
I was reading up on Gary Myers.
Oh, that's our next guest. Gary Myers is here from the New York Daily News. He is a longtime NFL columnist. You may know him from his work on television for many, many years. He's written a book called Brady versus Manning. We've promoted it several times and it's several books.
It's worked out perfect. I mean, you have one or the other at the Super Bowl every year, right?
3 years in a row. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
People are approaching me now to write a book because they think if I write about them, they'll get in the Super Bowl.
Right. Well, you're here and they're here, and maybe one more time there will be a parade. I don't know. I mean, you've been doing this a long time. Elway was pretty damn good. Montana was pretty good. I mean, there were the eras of the Kellys that came close and the Marinos that never did. And you saw Unitas as a kid, as I did. This is kind of unthinkable, right? I mean, I watched Gretzky, I watched Jordan. We're seeing something here, and I know they're cheating, and I know your next book will be about that, But it really is kind of incredible.
You always got to put that asterisk next to it, don't you?
He cheats. They cheat. They did cheat, right?
Well, Belichick did, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Just,
I'm not sure about Brady, but that's
that rubs me wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
you're allowed.
and I rooted for the Steelers last week. That's how much it rubbed me wrong. But, you got into this relationship between the two of them, and it's a story that everyone wants to hear more of, right? I mean, these are interesting people. And I think I said to you last year, why'd you write the book in the middle of it? It's not done yet. And here we go, and here comes one more addendum, one more chapter to this thing. This guy might win 3 more. I mean, literally, right?
Well, if I waited till the whole thing was over, till they both retired, it might be another 10 years. And, I actually wanted to hit it, while it was still really relevant. And I got a full season of Peyton out of it before he retired. And now, the book is updated and through Peyton's retirement. But this is just really unique, what's going on with Brady now. He's 39 years old, and he's playing as well as he ever has.
You thought when you wrote the book he was near the end. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was close enough to the end that you wouldn't have to keep retelling this story.
I know. We knew we were near the end with Peyton because, he had those 4 neck surgeries, and at some point, Nestor, you knew his body was just going to betray him, and he wasn't going to be able to do it anymore. And you saw
that's why Indianapolis let him walk away.
Right, but then he gets to 2 Super Bowls after that, so he still had something left. And what he did coming back from those neck surgeries was amazing. He had over 55 touchdown passes in his second year in Denver. With Tom's now at the age that Peyton was last year, and you see what a tremendous difference it is between the two of them. Tom physically is in as good a shape as he's ever has been, and I think it's either going to take a major injury, which everybody hopes does not happen, or him just getting bored and feeling, I'm 43, playing with 23-year-olds, who aren't, they're 6 or 7 or 8 years older than his oldest kid. And how long does he want to do that?
But he also hasn't taken a beating. I mean, the injury aside, and I know he's had some ribs and a little bit of shoulder, a little bit of this and that, but nothing like Brett Favre, nothing like, he didn't play a rough and tumble game. And, I noticed in the championship game, somebody got in on him early in the game, and he just turtled up and rolled over. And Manning was doing that at the end as well. And I'm thinking, that's a $30 million body there, that's another $100 million over the next 3 years. And obviously it's not about the money or the chicks at this point for him. He just clearly likes doing it. This is what he enjoys doing, in the same way I came back to radio because I kind of enjoy doing this.
Yeah, I mean, when he curls up in a ball when a guy's about to smash him, that's self-preservation. It's smart. If you can't throw it away and can't find, a completion, then you might as well just hold on to the ball and go down before you take the big hit. So I don't really blame him for that. But at the level he's playing at now, again, as long as he doesn't get hurt, he might keep getting better instead of regressing. You'd figure at this point
he's getting smarter.
Well, he's definitely getting smarter. I mean, he's the smartest guy in the field every time he steps on it. And
as was Peyton Manning.
Right.
And that might have been one of the criticisms of Brady 10 years ago. During the course of the year, you would see Manning doing the Omaha and moving guys around in that offense. 10 years ago, you didn't see Brady doing a lot of that. You might not still see a lot of that because they're so astute as to personnel and down and distance and knowing what they want to do and knowing the options when they get to the line of scrimmage. But, they have the smartest players, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his receivers and you put him on other teams, you're not necessarily going to think that, Julian Edelman's going to have 100 catches playing with
Joe Flacco. Go ahead. Kick us. You're in Baltimore. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't
It's
good.
all right.
I like Flacco.
I like Flacco too, but I guess our point is, as Ravens fans, we're looking for a big receiver. Luke, I wouldn't necessarily say if you gave Joe this group of receivers, the Ravens would be gangbusters. They wouldn't be, right?
With a healthy Gronk, fine.
Okay,
but other than
fair
that,
enough. But, and that's another part of the story that's amazing to this year is the suspension, giving Collins away in the middle of the year. Gronkowski goes down, wasn't really ever right. He was only right for 4 or 5 games.
That's right.
And they've made this look easy. And I would have no thought that they could go out and dispatch of the Falcons 38-16 and pick Matt Ryan twice and force a fumble and say, I can see that a lot more than I can see Brady throwing 3 picks and getting sacked for a fumble and the Patriots losing this game in the fashion that, let's say, the Broncos did to Seattle and New York.
Yeah, I mean, Brady's not going to have 3 interceptions. He actually did have 2 against Seattle a couple of years ago, but that was one of the better defenses we've seen of this generation. If one of the 2 quarterbacks is going to blow up and have a really bad game Sunday, you'd have to figure it'd be Matt Ryan playing his first Super Bowl rather than Brady playing his 7th. What makes Brady so good is he can take a guy like Chris Hogan, who was an okay player with Buffalo. He'd been cut by a bunch of teams, played lacrosse at Penn State, then played 1 year.
He's the king of New Jersey, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, where else could Chris Hogan go and lead the league in average yards per catch and then have the game that he did in the AFC Championship game? Julian Edelman, he's a nice player. He's Wes Welker light. Maybe he's becoming better than Wes Welker. But, again, you put him on another team and you don't see this happening. This whole thing is Brady. It's all Brady. And
Belichick?
Well, yeah, I'm just talking about the offense
at
this point, making the receivers better. I don't mean the whole run has been all Brady. I think the offense is all Brady, that you can pretty much plug anybody in there, and he's going to make them look great. He's just that good. Also, the difference between him and Peyton at this point, he throws the ball hard. I mean, Brady doesn't have an Elway arm, but his arm is much better than Peyton's ever was, and a lot better than Peyton's was last year. And Peyton was throwing punts after a while.
Oh, yeah. He looked like Billy Kilmer at some point.
Well, Brady is still really zipping it. I mean, you watch some of these passes that he's fitting into these tight windows. There's not a lot of quarterbacks that can do that.
Gary Myers is here. Gary Myers, NYDN, of course, of the New York Daily News, writes books. Brady, Manning, Luke is here as well.
Hey, Gary, what do you like about Tom Brady, the person? I mean, this whole Brady Manning thing, commercials, SNL, really made Manning a far more likable guy.
Right, I'd say that.
Outside his home market, because everyone loves the hometown guy. But Tom Brady outside of New England, yes, he's respected. Yes, at this point, to not acknowledge that he's one of, if not the greatest of all time, certainly one of the 2 or 3 greatest of all time. There's no question about that anymore. But what do you like about Tom Brady, the person, that maybe people outside New England don't get?
Well, Luke, it's funny because Peyton was unbelievable on Saturday Night Live. Mm-hmm. But when I did the book, I watched, I went on YouTube and I found some of the Brady skits from Saturday Night Live. He was pretty funny, too. Yeah. It's just by comparison to Peyton.
Sure.
Right.
He paled in comparison.
But Brady doesn't want to do it, right?
No, I mean, you just can tell by the volume of commercials that Peyton does and Tom is, he kind of picks and chooses, the higher end stuff, I would say. I'm not sure which watch it is that he does, and then Uggs and things like that. You find him in GQ.
Yeah, he's looking for the Aspen crowd, right?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
I found him a very likable guy when I did the book. He was very accommodating with me, and
what kind of access did you have to him and maybe to his family? I mean, you hear a lot about his family and his background, out on the West Coast, and politically now he's going to be dragged into this thing, as he should be. Stand up and be counted. I wonder if Tom Brady's band would have played the inauguration. That would have been my question on media night.
Well, I think he's been reluctantly dragged into the political stuff because he is friends with Donald Trump. And, you can't tell a person how to choose his friends, but when your friend becomes president, then all of a sudden people are assuming that you are backing him politically. And, Tom has never addressed that. He's never addressed his relationship with Trump, other than the fact that.
But Trump's addressed his relationship with Tom Brady, which is really the problem. I mean, amongst about a billion other ones. But yes.
And maybe that should tell you something. Is that I think he's used his relationship with Kraft and Belichick and Trump and Brady because they are the Patriots, because they're the most high-profile team and the most successful team in the league right now. I think Trump has used that.
Anything
to his
you
advantage.
can do to legitimize yourself, right?
Yeah.
In these times. Well, there's nothing. That is the question about Belichick and Brady, is because of the trail of working around the edges, cheating, lying. When it comes time for you guys to get in a room and talk about their Hall of Fame credentials, they're going to get in, but there's always going to be this thing that, from the sports perspective, it would have been a whole lot better if this were done on a completely clean basis for me.
Well,
all of this.
You know what, Nestor? I said this from the beginning. I don't even consider the Deflategate stuff. I thought that was a bunch of nonsense, that the league never proved anything.
And a lot of people feel that way.
And I sat in the courtroom there in New York when one of the NFL attorneys admitted they had no concrete evidence against Brady, that it was all circumstantial. For what they did to him and not have any substantial evidence, I thought was really unfair. What actually happened, I would never swear to it, but I'm fairly confident that
Tom... It didn't do him any harm. It may have motivated him. I mean, they're here.
Yeah, I think they would have been here anyhow. But if you look at his numbers, and I looked this up the other day, since that AFC Championship game against the Colts, I think it's either 76 or 78 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. Starting with the Super Bowl against Seattle up until last week's game against Pittsburgh, those are the numbers that he's put up since he was accused of deflating footballs, which is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, so back to a personal relationship with him and what kind of guy he is, which was Luke's original question, I think.
Yeah, I think he's, for somebody of his stature and his wealth and who he's married to, I think he tries to be a regular guy as much as he can. I found him that way doing the interviews with him, that he was very anecdotal, he was funny. I thought he was forthcoming.
Well, he's clearly smart. I mean, he's clearly very smart.
Well, he went to the University of Michigan. I only say that because my kid goes there. So,
should I sing the fight song right now?
Go right ahead.
No, that's all right. Yeah. We're in the Big Ten now. It's not funny when we get our asses kicked.
I know. It is the best.
Was it 61-3 or 59-3?
I put that out of my memory.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh probably has, and I'm sure.
Sure, DJ Durkin's wishing.
It is the best fight song in the country, though. You have to admit that. The Michigan fight song.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like some of the altered versions that opposing Big Ten schools have for it.
Oh, no, I haven't heard any of that.
I can't say it on the air.
Hail to the victors is pretty darn good. But, no, to get back to what you're saying, I found him very likable. I knew him over the years from, the Jets-Patriots games and the Super Bowls that he was at. But I really didn't have any quality time with him. So he drove from Gillette to downtown Boston, and I interviewed him as he was driving, and he's kept his eyes on the road. I'll give him that, which I was happy about. But he's
a better driver than you think. He's a safe driver.
He's a very safe driver.
All right.
So I would trust my kids with him.
I'm having a vision of you guys doing carpool karaoke.
Yeah, right.
No, we weren't doing that. But he was able to answer my questions with depth while he was driving, and we weren't even sitting in a lot of traffic, so we were moving the whole time, and it really made my book. To be honest with you, that was the best interview I did for my book. Peyton, not so much. I flew out to Denver, and he gave me about 20 minutes in a hallway, and I had a relationship with him. From the day he was drafted.
Were you doing it in the season?
No, it was after an OTA practice.
Oh, wow.
So I was a little surprised that, I never had an issue with him. I covered Eli, so I've gotten to know him a lot through Eli, and I'm very friendly with Archie. And I just don't think Peyton was into the project because he wasn't controlling it. And if you know anything about Peyton, he's a complete control freak. And he didn't have any editorial control over it. I just interviewed him for the book, and that was the end of his involvement. Brady the same way, except I got to interview him 2 or 3 more times to fill in some blanks. Peyton was a one-shot deal. I knew that when I went into it. And his answers were great. I mean, Peyton's always going to be great. It's just that, clearly he was doing it because Brady was doing it. And I think he was advised that it would be in his best interest if Brady was talking to me that he should do it too. So I think he did it reluctantly. He gave me a lot of good stuff, but I can tell he was very reluctant about it.
The author is Gary Myers. He's our guest right now. He's Gary Myers, NYD, and of course you know him from television and he's written a book on Brady and Manning, and we've talked about it. And you keep updating the damn thing. You know, if you're gonna look into a crystal ball and say 10 years from now, I mean, they're in the Hall of Fame. They're going to have nice nights out in the middle of hopefully a starlit night in Canton, and they're building their own little Disney World out there. I'm sure that'll look different 10 years from now. What are they doing? I mean, you know, how does it unfold for them? The Elway thing has really become a fascinating story. I mean, I'm Baltimore, you know, the Accorsi side of that, and his father, and how he wound up in Denver, and the Chris Hinton deal, and that story is still being written at this point. I mean, it's almost like Ozzie Newsome right now. I mean, in Baltimore, we got a team that's sort of teetering, and you know, pitchforks are out, as the owner says, and all that. But that story, and the Joe Flacco, I mean, all these stories get written, but these guys don't have to do anything. They can just go home. I don't think Peyton Manning's going home. I mean, I think Peyton Manning's going to run some football teams, right?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. He might even own, say, the Tennessee Titans, where he's still big in Tennessee, and there's been some.
The Mannings should own the Saints. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, Tennessee, there's been some ownership.
That's what I think.
There's been some ownership question. I think that Peyton will be running a team. He could have run the Colts now if he wanted to. Jimmy Irsay wanted him. He's obviously not ready to commit and get back into it quite yet. He's probably having fun doing commercials, doing speaking engagements, and being home with his kids. And he's living in Denver, and someone told me last night that he just built a new house in Denver, so maybe he's planning on staying there for a while. But I do think football's in his future. Tom, for a while early on, people thought he'd go into politics, and he's told me that he has no interest in doing that. His dad has told me that he thinks an Elway role would be something that Tom would be interested in, but he hasn't said that. I think when he gets done playing, he's going to take some time off and
raise his kids
and hang out with his kids.
Yeah,
and then
you can see from like his Instagram stuff and the stuff that I see that he, you know, Luke, you talk about him not doing commercials and stuff. He puts pictures of his feet up and his, you know, kid and what he's eating for dinner. You know, he's personable in that direct way because he does control the message. So if you follow Tom Brady in that world, I think you sense that football is what he does, but it's not who he is. I think football is who Peyton Manning is.
Well, you'd be surprised about that. Tom is consumed with football. He really is. That's the thing that people probably aren't aware, that he studies as hard as Peyton never did. He is a lunatic on the practice field, and I mean that in a good way in terms of how obsessive he is, getting things right, and a drop pass in practice really upsets him. He's a perfectionist like Peyton was throughout the course of his career. But, you know, Peyton's got that reputation, and, you know, Tom is harder for people to get to know and really understand. But I can tell you, you know, from my time around him, that football is incredibly important to him.
Well, and that was one of the things that Belichick called him out on, right? Like girlfriends in the off season and all that stuff a number of years ago. That was a very public thing to say, you know, how important is this to you? It has to continue. And hey, I think we saw this with Cal Ripken. We saw this with Ray Lewis. We saw this with Ed Reed. These great players, you know, at the end, it was still, even though they had $100 million in the bank, even though they had a ring or the accolades or they knew they were going to the Hall of Fame, it mattered so much to Shannon Sharp at the end. It mattered so much to Rod Woodson. These are the guys I was around, you know. And after all of these championships, it's obvious this guy's here. It matters a lot. Other side of this is the Matt Ryan story unfolding here as well. And this is an arc that would have been predicted 8 or 9 years ago. But, boy, this is a big, big moment for Matt Ryan and for what he's trying to do in Atlanta.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's trying to take down, you know, one of the best, if not the best quarterback in NFL history, who's playing in his 7th Super Bowl, and he's trying to do it playing in his first. And, you know, Matt's had a terrific season up until this year. His failures have been in the playoffs. He's been a good regular season quarterback, you know, pretty much his entire career. nobody knows how he's going to play on Sunday. Is the moment going to be too big for him? We know it won't be too big for Brady. Is it going to be too big for Ryan? And I think we'll know that really early in the game. If he can get past the opening jitters, this can be an extremely competitive, high-scoring game. I think it has a chance to be a high-scoring game. The fun thing about Ryan is that he went to BC for 4 years in Brady's backyard. In the backyard of Foxborough. I asked him yesterday, or asked him this week, whether he's ever did he ever go to Foxborough to watch Brady play in person when he was at BC, and he said he didn't have the chance. I think he played a game there, but he never went to see Brady play. But certainly with the Patriots on TV every Sunday in Boston while he was
it's funny.
there.
His childhood unfolded with Brady, too. That's how long Brady's been around. He was in high school playing football, watching Tom Brady come down, down here and win. Right?
Yeah, Brady's first year of playing, he got in the league in 2000. First year of playing was in 01, and Matt was in the 08 draft. So Brady's 8 years older than him, and Matt grew up in Philadelphia, and he was totally into football. So he's paying attention to Brady then. And then to be in the same city as him and read and maybe be exposed to how Tom conducted himself as a professional and how he prepared for games, because there's been so much written and said about that in Boston. I'm sure it had a positive effect on Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I wrote a book on the Ravens after they won, and I spent a considerable amount of time with Flacco, and he admitted to me that he had a Tom Brady poster
in his bedroom. Yeah.
I wrote that in the book. Yeah, that's kind of hard to get our arms around that when this guy's still playing at this level.
That's right.
And there's something to be said for that. The last thing for you, because we were talking so much about running teams and Elway and what he's accomplished. John Lynch, not a scout, not a junior scout, not quality control, not a go run the defensive backs for 5 minutes. Come run the franchise for the next 6 years. Wow. Dude, what are they doing? It might work, but boy, oh boy, I don't like the odds.
Well, worst case scenario, he's Matt Millen.
Well, we've all been saying that.
Other than that, no big deal, right?
What if they go 0-16? They can't go 0-17.
Yeah. Best case scenario, he's John Elway.
Sure.
He's tight with Elway. He's very friendly with Peyton Manning. I tweeted the other day, that perhaps he should bring Peyton in as a consultant for the next 3 months to help figure out the quarterback situation in San Francisco, because they got to figure something out there. I can tell you this. John Lynch is a really smart guy, Stanford guy, been close to the game because he's been broadcasting it. If anybody can do this, I think John can do it, which is not saying he will be able to do it.
But why wouldn't you hire a qualified person?
Because what they're doing in San Francisco makes no sense. For the last
4 years?
And I'm not just saying this move. I'm just saying.
Well, it's Cleveland, too.
They ran Harbaugh out of town because he rubbed people the wrong way. But that's okay. If you're making it to championship games.
Winning.
Your daughter's happy about that.
Bill Belichick.
My son, yeah.
Belichick's rubbed plenty of people the wrong way.
Yeah.
He wins.
And then they promote Jim Bell, head coach. I'm a little concerned about him leaving his backpack unattended the other day with his playbook in it. And if he's doing that at a media night, is he going to be organized enough to be a head coach? That does concern me a little bit, that he would be distracted, or
absent-minded,
whatever you want to say, or it's. It could happen, but I don't know what the playbook was doing at media night to begin with. I think he'll be a good head coach, and what he's done with the Falcons offense the last couple of years has been tremendous, and he's really got Matt Ryan to the next level. And now it'll be up to Lynch and his personnel people around him to find him a quarterback.
No one covers the NFL better than Gary Myers, historian, and you can check him out at Gary Myers, NYDN, out on Twitter, as well as his book. Last thing for you, any thoughts on the Ravens and where they are at this point? Because we spend lots of time talking about this, and I've been doing this 21 years with them. I've never seen an offseason like this where the owner says the pitchforks are out, because and we all have incredible respect for Ozzie and John, and I don't think anyone sane in the fan base is rooting against them or feels like they're not good enough or they're not qualified enough. And certainly the owner has been very loyal to this point, and that's been part of the success, is not being reactionary in the way other franchises are, that no one's ever picked a football player that put in this organization other than Ozzie. No one else can say that. But at some point it's going to end, and it's probably going to end not with 2 championships in a row. It's probably going to end badly because most of these things do end badly.
Yeah, I mean, you hope not, because I really like both those
guys. Oh, yeah, of course.
And I think the solid organizations, the organizations with credibility, stay the course through some down periods. I mean, they won the Super Bowl. It's only 4 or 5 years ago.
They haven't made the playoffs 3 out of 4 years. If they don't make it next year, it's 4 out of 5. And look, I think the Flacco thing is, at this point, $1 quarterback.
Players, and I don't think Ozzie's lost his touch picking players, but it's hard to try to project how a guy's going to be in the NFL. You hit some, and then you miss on some. But they were right there at the end of the season, in position to win the division. If things go a little different in that game in Pittsburgh, they could have won it and won the division. Who knows where they could have taken it from there. So I'm glad that Steve Bisciotti didn't make any changes. I started to hear some rumblings about Harbaugh towards the end of the season. Pittsburgh is stuck with Tomlin. He got to an AFC Championship game this year. I think Harbaugh is a better coach than Tomlin. I would just stay the course and just try to.
Well, they would be out of work 2 minutes, right? I mean,
yeah,
literally.
No, he's a guy that will be gobbled up. I think he's got a very positive reputation around the league, and if he can't get a job, he can go hang out with his brother in Michigan.
Well, there's a great example that when guys like that hit the market. We're talking about John Lynch. There's qualified people. You're looking for qualified people, and no one's more qualified in Steve Bisciotti's mind than John Harbaugh and Ozzie Newsome.
And I would agree with that. I mean, who are you going to replace him with?
Gary Myers is here. The book is Brady versus Manning. You can check it out, NYDN, and the New York Daily News as well. Thanks for coming by, man. It's always great to see you.
Well, thank you, Nestor.
You got it, man. We're out in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. Morning newspaper ships at 7 a.m. each and every morning via planetfitness.com. You can sign up at WNST.net as well. We're down here. Nasty at WNST.net finds me for the road trip on Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports